welcome back to another episode of Authentically Divine. I'm your host, Alyssa Davis, and welcome back. If you listened to my intro episode, I appreciate you so much. You can now be called one of my valued listeners. I appreciate it. But, I'm just excited to be here. Today's topic is really important to me. It hits home. It's very personal. And I'm sharing a little piece of myself that I think will be a statement to whomever decides to listen to this, that this is who I am. And it will further explain to you exactly what this podcast is all about. And everything that will be detailed is going to be just a little piece of my heart. So we're going to start it off strong. But like I mentioned in each episode, I will feature a product that I am using or a company that I now like. Today's brand is Senvoler. It is a French brand. No, it's a French word. But this is a California-based clothing company. And this is screen printed. Alongside, it's made out of 100% cotton, which is a plus for me, win-win. I want to wear just cotton fabric or wool or linen, all those high quality fabrics. I am trying to veer away from polyester, and that's another topic for another day, but a lot of our clothing is made out of literal plastic. So I'm trying to wear high vibrational clothing that makes you feel better and allows you to relax. So we're going to start it off with today the Senvoler hoodie brand that I'm wearing. And each hoodie that you buy plants a tree, which is really cool, which is helping another cause, and being a part of the community is part of why I'm here. On top of the fact that it is also embroidered, and then they put a patch on it, and the back has a whole bunch of words and really cool sayings on it. Today was a very special day. It was filled with lots of love, and my mom got married to my stepdad. They've been together for over 10 years. Today actually was the exact date that they met, so that's why they got married today. But it was a very nice, calm wedding. We all got together for dinner, and my mom is just a hopeless romantic. She's just like me, and to see her dreams be fulfilled, and for her to be in love and just so happy, it just makes me happy. So we got to experience that today. I was like, I have to take an opportunity and try to do another podcast episode because I never get ready anymore. I'm going to wear this new hoodie that I'm obsessed with, and I'm just going to roll with it. Let's start it off. Today, like I mentioned, today is very personal. Today hits home. Today is all about perspective. So I'm going to start it off with today. I am 26 years old, and I am 8 months free from alcohol today. And I say free because I want to emphasize that it actually is freedom. So this episode about my sobriety, I actually had recorded when I was 8 months sober. That was 8 months ago. So I am more than a year. It's been 16 months being sober. And the reason I kept the episode the way that it is, instead of re-recording and doing one that shows that I am 16 months sober, is because what I have learned throughout the journey is that when I was struggling and when I was going through sobriety at 8 months, I had tips and tricks that may be really beneficial to those that are listening in January, as some people are looking to go sober in January, or they call it dry January. So I thought that this would be perfect to just showcase some extra additional tips to be able to help yourself while you're trying to navigate sobriety or dry January. But either way, if you are just trying to encourage yourself to stop for a week or a month or just start your sobriety journey, I'm really excited to be able to share this. And I just have to say, everything that I mentioned in this episode is true. Being sober has actually been the best and most beneficial thing that has transformed my life. And for each person, it may be different, but truly for me, I no longer have any bounds and chains, and I've had enough freedom and time that was given back to me to be able to create this podcast. So, if that is any more encouragement, if you want to find that you are a creative person, or if you don't feel that you are creative, I recommend going sober and seeing where boredom takes you. But thank you for being an Authentically Divine listener. Tune in for the episode. Now, let me go into details because people probably are like, what, you can't have one or two? Like, no, I purposefully stopped because what is the point of 1 to 2? My body wanted 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, blah, 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 blackout. There was no point to having 1 or 2 because my body craves more. I wanted to be free, and with the help of my family, with the amazing and utmost help from my boyfriend, I was able to quit alcohol seamlessly. And I say, I emphasize the fact of having support because being free from alcohol means taking time away from socializing, from doing all that everyone does on the weekends, and focusing on yourself. Which that can mean, like it meant for me, no more going out, sticking at home, learning about myself, and honestly, I'm just going to go into the details and just say about how amazing it has been for this journey to understand myself more than I could have possibly ever imagined. With that being said, when you start your journey of being sober and you have all this free time, for me, even though I was only drinking on weekends at the time that I had chosen to be sober, I did start to recognize I had mood swings. It's not really talked about a lot with the withdrawal of alcohol, but it lasts for a little while. Each person's different, so I'm not going to give a time frame, but I just want to bring awareness. There is withdrawal from alcohol, even if you have a couple drinks a week, because the weekend rolls around, your body's used to the cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone. High cortisol is addicting. It's meaning that you're under a lot of stress. Your body becomes addicted to it and it's ready for it and it wants more. So, for me, when I was drinking, it'd be a Friday night, get out of work at 5, get ready, rush to get ready, go out and get drunk. Immediately, hardly, I'd be rushing, I'd be shoving chicken nuggets down my throat, getting ready, and not eating, and the stress of the afternoon, the night, just that amped up feeling, that's cortisol. Alcohol naturally increases your cortisol levels, which is why a lot of people have anxiety the next day. That is when the come down is from alcohol. That's why it's anxiety inducing. And that's why a lot of people struggle with the hangover, and they call it hangxiety, because you are no longer having alcohol be put in your system. You're coming down from it. So I want to emphasize that your cortisol levels, it's addiction to cortisol when you are when you're drinking a lot, because it just naturally induces that. So going forward, when the weekend would roll around, when I stopped drinking alcohol early, I was what am I supposed to do? I'm so bored. Because, I mentioned, you get all this time back. So high cortisol levels and time being sped up when you're drinking alcohol to now lower cortisol because I'm not stressing myself out. I mean, yes, my body was still stressed. So it's the come down. I'm lowering the cortisol levels, relaxing on the weekends, playing cards, reading books. The amount of time that comes back, because time starts to slow down. That's what I mean about you get all this time back. It's conscious time, which means you're aware of it. Versus, and everyone can agree with me here, Alcohol speeds up time. The concept of time, although it's the same amount of 8 hours you get, let's say you're out drinking 8 hours, which is a while, but yeah, a lot of people do it on the weekends. 8 hours drinking is going by in a flash. 8 hours after work, reading, relaxing, calm, it goes by like in turtle mode, slow pace. So for me, I'm bored. He is going to crave alcohol. It's a withdrawal. It's an addiction. And I'm not saying like it's just naturally an addictive type of toxin. It's an addictive substance. Alcohol is highly addictive. Look at the country, because when you start to be sober, you see it everywhere. Alcohol for this, that, the other. Breathing, eating, sleeping. Like, everyone needs alcohol at all times. Oh, a glass of wine to relax? No. So, I mean, I'm just kind of like spewing off, but that's where you start to become enlightened a little bit. You will start to see that alcohol is a lot. It's a lot. It's included in a lot of today's society. And, you'll probably get comments. But this is where strength and character building comes in. You get to make your own choices, and you are stepping away from everything that society has said was fine, and you're realizing it within yourself that this is not the way you want to live. Whether you're being sober because you want to lose weight, or you have a health problem, or you just are sick of it the way that I was, and I'm like, maybe you're one of those people like me where it's like now or never. Hear me out. It's the best choice you could possibly make for your health, for your life, and for your well-being overall. And I'm just going to keep encouraging you. And, I'm not saying like I sit and judge my friends for drinking, but I would be the first to say, like, health-wise, if you are going through anxiety on weekends and like dealing with some stuff, take some time to yourself. Step away from the scene. If you are in a group of friends and that primary group of friends is the ones that you go out with and drink with, and you're close-knit with them, and you do everything with them, and it includes drinking, this is where it could be tough for you. I don't want this to be discouraging. I want everyone to have the awareness that if you are surrounding yourself with people that are making the decisions that you're trying to get away from, it's going to be a lot of change for you. And there are sober people. You can still go out sober. But even in my early days of attempting to do that, like going out to bars and stuff sober is like you realize that everyone changes into something very different than who they are. So the crowds might be something you don't like anymore, which is great if you're trying to be sober. Take yourself away from those situations. Taking yourself away from the places that include alcohol would be a very big thing too, especially in the beginning. For me, I am a social butterfly. I don't need to have alcohol to talk. Like, as you can see, I'm by myself. And I also mentioned, like, my job is talking. I've had to, how many times, like, drink this water. Definitely did make me realize a lot of things about myself when I stopped drinking. I realized that I am way more of an introvert than I ever, in my 26 years, knew about myself. Like, I enjoy solitude and being quiet and doing things like this where I'm talking and I'm not consuming and I'm expressing myself. So it's allowed me a lot of time to, like, I do puzzles, I read, I've been starting this podcast, I go spend more time at the gym, and I'm cooking more. Like, when I tell you the amount of time that opens up when you are not drinking alcohol is actually insane. Like, getting up early on the weekends. Getting up early on the weekends is just like a portion of it, but there was days worth of hangovers that I would have. I wake up energized and completely fine every single day, ready to take on the world. And progressively I'm taking on the world because I'm sober. That is a lot of time that you get back. So you may find that you have passions and things you enjoy that you never even thought you would venture into. And that's true for me. True for me 100%. All that time that you get back is amazing. You can, like, there was this podcast, another Huberman podcast reference. I had watched the one with Robert Greene, and he had mentioned, like, what your purpose is and how to find it. And he was like, look at all the stuff you used to do as a kid. What did you enjoy? And I feel like, because I follow a lot of accounts that talk about this, when you're sober, you are able to, like, find the joys in the simple things in life again that don't require, like, stress-induced activities. Like, you can still go and do these things. Like, I'm not saying that, but, like book reading, like, playing cards, sitting and drawing. Like, I was drawing on the weekends. I had found time to do things that I would have never done if I was drinking alcohol. And also, another great point here, it creates a connection to yourself and a trust, like I had said about relying on yourself, but it creates this trust and love for yourself that it's immeasurable. This love for your body, this love for your vessel, this love for your soul, because your soul is yearning to be at a comfort level and relaxing and being treated right. And taking that step to be sober just shows, it's just an admirable trait. It's something that not a lot of people do. So I want to encourage everyone, again, if you are thinking about being sober, there are so many resources to just encourage you further, including this episode. I hope that this episode is something that helps you to feel included in this type of environment. Like, it'll be a year coming up so fast, and I just want to encourage everyone to do what they want. It's a choice. It's up to you. And no, not every choice is going to be easy. Like deciding what you want to have for breakfast that morning. It's going to be decisions like this, sober or not. I started drinking in middle school. We couldn't even stand the taste, couldn't stand the smell, which when you think about it, it's like, you know better. Like, when something tastes like that, like, that's a red flag. You know, I wouldn't taste or like anything and continue to eat it or drink it if it gave me an awful taste in my mouth. But I always hung out with the older crowd, and I did get into alcohol very quickly with my friends. I would go to parties. I would be getting picked up in the middle of the night with my friends, and we would go to a party. With that being said, when you hang out with an older crowd, they're already doing things that you may not be doing. So that's where I kind of started to adapt to the lifestyles and the things that they were doing. Because, like, if I was hanging out with older kids, like, I'm a freshman in high school now, I'm hanging out with the older crowd, like, they all have their graduation parties coming up, they all have prom, they have this, that, the other. I'm not doing childhood, like, type things. Like, they're getting into the weed, they're smoking weed, they're doing this, I got into the EDM scene and, like, the rave and listening to EDM, and it was really called, like, the rave scene at the time. And if you know, like, it was the neon clothing, like the spray painted eyes and, like, ripped t-shirts with, like, beads on them and, like, cutoffs with spray paint. Like, we got into that scene, and that involved obviously drinking. And, you know, I had great memories. I'm not knocking on the fact, like, I don't think I ever during those times was, like, addicted to alcohol. I don't think that I, like, craved it, but that was beginning to be a lot of social events and a lot of being around friends involved drinking later during those times in high school. 10th grade was the crazy year. So junior year, I was like, all right, like, something's got to give. Like, I got to do better. And so I remember, because, like I mentioned before, I was part of the older crowd, not the bigger crowd, the older crowd. And so they had graduated high school. I was still hanging out with my friends that were a year older. But this is when people my age, my grade, started getting into alcohol and drinking and partying and like high school parties where everyone would like, they would get crashed. Like we would be running from the cops and stuff. So I tend to stay away from the crowd sometimes. I like to do my own thing. This is where I recognized within myself, like, not really, like, I'm kind of getting bored. Like, it's not my favorite. So I was on the lacrosse team. I started to take it really seriously and started to take my health seriously. And I'm an all or nothing person. So this leads me into another aspect, but I'm an all or nothing person. I throw all my cards or all my eggs in one basket and I go hard. I am fully committed. So this was in high school. Oh, it's following me. Okay. So this is in high school, my senior year now. I'm throwing myself at fitness and eating well. I did have stomach issues. I was dealing with that more because I was losing weight rapidly because I was mid on a lacrosse team, so I was running and going ham. But on weekends, I would find myself at the gym. I would be separating myself from what everyone else is doing. And that's really when I started to feel outcasted again because I started to do my own thing and I wasn't hanging out with a lot of the friends that I used to hang out with because our interests just weren't the same, and I was trying to focus on myself again. Senior year, I have a great group of friends where I still involved myself in drinking. It just wasn't with big crowds of people. It was with my like close group of friends, and it really wasn't as prevalent as it was in the previous years. And yeah, we're talking high school. Okay? High school. When I look at high schoolers now, I'm like, you guys are babies. I'm like, I would have never gotten into a relationship in high school. I never would have gotten, like, involved in drinking had I known, like, when you were that young, you're that young. And that was, like, 10 years ago for me. I graduated high school 10 years ago next year. After high school, I got really into going out. This is when I had a fake ID. Like, that was the hype. Like, everyone's got to have a fake ID. We're going out. Drinking, getting into it. I'm still doing all the fitness. I'm still eating well. Still dealing with my stomach issues, but I'm in college now. And that's more of a thing than I was in high school. And it's, Thursday nights, Tuesday nights, Monday nights, Sundays, Saturdays. Like, at one point in my college career, I was going out Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and dabbling on Sundays. I was watching an Andrew Huberman podcast, and he had talked about alcoholism and being dependent on alcohol. There are a couple factors about it. He had specifically talked about being dependent on alcohol in the sense of, there's a couple people that will get energized from alcohol, where the rest of the room, and I'm not talking like the people that are doing like going skiing or on Adderall or taking drugs, just the people that are drinking. If you're in a room full of them and they all go to bed, they get tired and they're sleepy. Me, forget it. I am ready to just go. When I was drinking alcohol, I was so energized, which is truly, like, when you look at it, that's dangerous. It's just not smart. It's dependency without even realizing it, because you're like, oh, I can handle anything. Like, I have all the energy in the world, even though I've drank how much alcohol, I've had shots. I'm like, no. So that's why this whole podcast episode is extremely, like, this is a part of my heart that you're listening to. This is something I've struggled with. This is something that I've worked hard on. This is something that the milestones keep happening because I am truly taking care of myself and making different choices. Going out in college on all that, and then going into another relationship or diving into a lot of drinking. And this is where I started to realize I remember, although I was drinking a lot, I didn't have a lot of self-awareness in relationships up until, like, when your brain fully develops at 25. They're not kidding. I thought I had self-awareness. I didn't have self-awareness. that internal monologue didn't really exist the way that it does and leads me in the right direction nowadays, but that's also God. I really was very separated from God, as you can tell, with the way that I was sinning and using alcohol as a source of happiness and getting rid of all my stress. I started to recognize, and I remember this, alcohol was changing people around me, and I didn't like the way that that was. Not enough to change anything about my relationship to alcohol. Not enough to look at myself and say, maybe it's doing it to you too. I had no self-awareness again. I'm going to emphasize that because it truly takes someone to be self-aware to understand the depths of their choices, and that really wasn't something that I looked into for myself. I viewed the outside world as the outside world, and my internal world had no reflection of it. It was just everyone else. Another breakup after a long-term relationship, and it's, again, you can find me out drinking, making bad decisions, throwing myself at men for attention, having no self-esteem, thinking that I had self-esteem because my ego was inflated by getting attention. I was broken. I didn't know who I was, and again, was using alcohol to cope. And then again, after I had gotten into a relationship, and that was another really long-term relationship, again, turning to alcohol to cope. The hangovers got worse, the decisions got worse, the sinning got worse, the dependency on these things and alcohol got worse. My choices were worse, and I was very much spiraling and didn't realize it. Didn't really recognize because I was like, I'm happy when I'm happy when I'm drinking. Like, I'm happy, I get to, I'm giggly, I'm laughing, I'm smiling, but I'm in dire pain the next morning. My friend would come over and give me an IV sometimes, and that would do nothing sometimes. Literally hook me up to an IV. I'd be sitting in my living room like a literal zombie. And these hangovers would last for days. Days. Not only do I still have stomach issues, but I'm dealing with brain fog from alcohol. Great choices here. It didn't matter. My ego again was through the roof. And I can admit that. My ego was through the roof. I enjoyed the attention. It wasn't until, and he knows this, but it wasn't until I got into this relationship with my current boyfriend. If you could see the inside of my brain and the curated version of the best person that could ever be created, I didn't know that this type of person existed. I had always hoped and dreamed that I would find the love of my life, and they were like him. And he and I stumbled upon each other at the most random time, and it was history. I will go into details in one episode. I intend to have him on while I get this all set up one of these days, because I love to pick his brain. He's such an intellectual human being. He's such a motivational person for me. He's been the rock in all of these changes, and he has helped me become the person that I've always wanted to be. It's easy to do these things when you have someone that is rooting for you. And, even on the days that I fall back, he is standing behind me and we're doing a trust fall exercise. I express my love to him all the time. Every single day, I am grateful and thank God that I have him in my life. I would be on Friday nights, Saturday nights, going out, and I didn't see anything wrong with it until I finally got to see and dabble into understanding that real love exists. Everything I've ever desired and wanted in a relationship exists, and it's with this man in front of me. And I think I had mentioned earlier on that I intend to be better every single day. I am very self-aware, but also like I'm self-aware about myself. But when you are involved intimately with another person, whether it's friends, like family, relationship, they are a direct mirror for you. If you have good people in your life, they are direct mirrors for you in the sense that they will reflect back to you what you need to work on. And not even saying it verbally or anything, just like the people that you are around are direct mirrors of your internal world. And I can't wait to go into detail on that. That's like a very psychological thing, but again, that was what it was. He was a mirror for me. I had a lot of coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms, and things that I'm not proud of that I would do. I'd like the wall would build itself like 5 stories high with me locked in a tower at the top, like Rapunzel. Like no one could get to me when I was drinking alcohol. And that's an inflated ego. That's what a lot of drinking is it allows for an inflated ego and you feel unstoppable. So when I got into an intimate relationship, I basically fell backwards. And I started to realize I didn't heal a lot of parts of myself that went with this, went with being intimate, went with being close to someone and love in itself. Love to me, from all of the other relationships that I had, it was broken. It was hurt. It was pain. It was shame. It was defeat. It was insecurity, lack of everything that love truly is. So having this amazing love in front of me and having someone be patient and kind and looking to just be my best friend and my teammate and my partner, I knew that drinking was not good for our relationship because it was bringing to the forefront a lot of my own issues. So week by week, actually it ended up being that the day that I had quit, the day that I said no more of this, was August 13th last year, so 2023. And the reason that this is important for me was because I had kind of stopped going out. Like, my boyfriend and I were getting serious and we were trying just to get to know each other, and the socializing scene wasn't as much. Like, we were doing date nights and staying in, which is always like my favorite thing now, but we had started to do that rather than my weekends being spent out drinking and socializing. So I had not been doing that, and I was like, I miss my girls, I miss going out. Like, I started to crave alcohol. I caught myself craving it. I had drank way too much. Woke up with shame, like anxiety. I was just embarrassing myself. Like, this is not who I am. I was like, no more of this. And I had a hangover. I was meeting my boyfriend's family for the first time. I was hungover. And I'm like, really? Like, this is not me. This is not me. And a lot of the times when I make major decisions, like I said, I'm all or nothing. I have this, my hoodie got stuck. I have this understanding in my head. I'm like, if you don't make the change now, when you are hearing that this is a problem in your head, like repetitively, this is a problem. If you don't make the change now, this is going to be a part of your personality. This is going to be what you continue to deal with. This is the precedent that you will be setting. And I'm going to say, you know what? I used to think that was my own voice. I know that it is my association with God. God is telling me, you're going down a wrong path. This is your time. It's now or never. It is now or never. Because you can only just continue to live in sin and not, the second that you are aware that you are doing this, it is ignorance prior to you realizing and having that self-awareness. But if you don't make that change right then and there, if you don't hit the crossroads and you make a better choice, you are just actively choosing to hurt yourself and to set the tone for what the future holds. And you're not walking with God anymore. And that's what I didn't realize for a long time. And my current boyfriend, he's just an amazing person, but he brought me to God. He brought me close. Like, I had God in my life at one point, and I can't wait to go into my testimony episode, but that's you got to walk with God. If you want to live a life worth living, you got to walk with God. So that voice comes in my head. I'm like, this is it. Now or never. And I said never again. Never again. I don't even want, like, people are like, well, why don't you, like, have one or two? Like I had mentioned, it's not that. I don't need it. Because it's not one or two. It's everything that goes along with it. Shame, anxiety, reverting back to toxic habits that I have no control over when I'm drinking, versus a sober mind. I am on the forefront of all of my decisions. I get to rely on myself 24/7. I'm at a function and things get chaotic, or there's like an emergency. Guess what? I can look to myself to be the one to fix everything, or I can be the one to get up in my car, drive, go somewhere, like pick somebody up if they're sick, ill, like something's going on. I can rely on myself for the first time in my entire life where, like, I have a conscious mind. I mean, I want to dig that in. When you are sober, you can rely on yourself. And everyone else can rely on you too. Do you know how powerful that is? Do you truly? I want everyone to hear this. If you are on the sober, curious path, or if you are thinking or had one single thought that maybe alcohol is not for you, listen to me right now. You can rely on yourself 100% when you are sober. And everyone else in the room, or everyone else that is in your contact list, every single person you know can rely on you 100% because you are sober. Mic drop. That was the mic drop. And it should be. Because that is just so powerful. It's powerful. It's all of the things. Because who wouldn't want to be that? Like, yes, it comes with a lot of things. So I'm going to start off with that because that is the main point. And I'm like, anyone that's sober, like, I'm so proud of you. So proud of you. Life is hard. It's so hard. But it's so worth it to say that you can rely on yourself, to love yourself that much to the point that you don't want to deal with anything other than sobriety. I am so proud of you and my heart's with you. If you are listening to this and you're like, maybe you tuned back in later on in the episode. Like, you saw that this is like, how I went from blacking out to books on the weekends. Maybe you're just not into it like that, but if you are even considering it or never have, and you listen to this and maybe it caught an inkling of your mind and you're like, maybe I should do that, I encourage you, and you can reach out to me and I will give you words of encouragement. But I follow some accounts that encourage sobriety, which also helps me just to be motivated. At this point now, I'm 8 months in, I don't crave it. I am okay with not even thinking about it. Like, I don't miss it. I don't see the value. I am just myself, authentically myself. In the beginning, following accounts and listening to podcasts about sobriety or how it helped people be sober, like the things that they did to help become sober, or having support, like that really was a gem for me. But when you come to the fork in the road like that, I encourage you to listen to yourself, to trust yourself, to feel your intuition, and like really, and if you are someone that prays and talks with God, talk with God, pray on it. If you feel that this is a crossroad where your identity is going to become this or that, I encourage you to do the best choice that you know, even if it's a hard choice. Because, if you take the step to a world that you have never lived in before, like I said, I've never been sober. In my conscious mind, in my ability to make choices as an adult, I've never been sober. Other than these last 8 months. And these last 8 months, my entire life has changed. All for the better. All for the better. Every path that I have walked on to get to this point, every fork in the road, every crossroad, every choice that has led me here is the reason why I'm encouraging everyone to go, to empower themselves, to understand you have the choice. And I encourage you to do the choice that makes you feel the best. And overall the best. Not in the moment where it slips and it doesn't come back. I encourage you to make long-term choices that are good for you. And thank you again to everyone that decided to tune in to this episode. I know this one was much longer than my intro, but this is a little bit of me. This is a piece of my heart. Thank you for listening, being my listener again. LYSSTENER, because you're my listener. Alyssa and listener. I'm going to keep going with that. But follow me on IG. Thank you for taking the time. I'm so grateful for every single person that has tuned in. And this is just the beginning. So thank you for tuning in again. And I encourage everyone to be authentically divine. It's a wrap. Thank you so much.